Hello, everybody. This is the show today. How's everybody doing? Um, there may be special guests coming, or there may not be. I still don't know. We'll find out together, apparently. Uh, they told me like 2.5 hours ago, yes, and then 2 hours ago, maybe, and then nothing since. So maybe that's a no. Anyways, um, I will say I have not updated my map yet today. uh, I did like a lot of reading, and I found like this is my map updatey spreadsheet thing, um, but I didn't add anything yet. But these are all the things I'm gonna add later, and some of them still need to be geolocated and stuff. Um, but yeah, there's no update today yet. So basically, I'm just going to be talking about the news up until yesterday. Although I did read the news today, so I do know what happened. I just haven't put it on the map yet. Um, is the popcorn machine out of order? I don't know. I don't know. Uh, might be. Uh, so how how's everybody doing? Um, yeah, a lot has happened recently. Some good and some bad. Uh, in particular, there's some news, not really news. It's like just satellite photography and video from this area near Svatova. Um, so interestingly, um, Ukraine had a CV-90 damaged in attacking a position here. You could probably you might be able to say that this is a Russian held position, considering Ukraine kind of rolled. Actually, I think Ukraine kind of rolled this way. I can't remember, but the CB-90 was damaged around here. It got popped. In fact, I could probably just show the video. Give me a second. Uh, uh, so this is the video. Um, So this is a CV-90 and another CV-90. Notice how there's a big gap between these two vehicles. I'm not so sure there's supposed to be this big of a gap. This seems like a rather large gap.
Are you streaming, Andrew?
Yes. Hello, Constantine.
No, I'm asking so I can see the stream.
Oh, okay, yeah. I'll share it to you with you. I'm showing the CV-90 video. I'm gonna pause the CV-90 video and share this with Constantine. Oh, language learners here. How you doing?
And how are you guys?
Fantastic. Um,
Awesome.
there, I just shared it with you too. Okay. So yeah, so this CV-90 was driving on up. Guy popped out of the trees like over here. You can kind of see him before he fires. He's like over here, and it's a very close range shot. And hit. You can sort of see in the CV-90 after it gets hit. You can see part of its armor, its add-on armor blew off because they this is a up armored version of the CV-90. So that up armored part blew off. You can see it flying through the air, and it kind of turned off and drove into a field. We have no clue what happened to this CV-90 because, well, you'll see in a second, is the video just ends. So we don't know what happens next. Whether maybe it just drove away and nothing happened, or maybe it was destroyed. We have no idea. So,
Did the Russians capture a CV-90, or they were parading one around?
not a CV-90. That was AMX 10RC. That's a French little scout tank. Where the CV-90 is a Swedish infantry fighting vehicle. The CV90 is probably the best vehicle that Ukraine has right now.
What makes it so good?
It has fantastic armor. It has its armor is at least equal to the upgraded Bradley. And not all of the Ukrainian Bradleys are upgraded, but some of them are. So its armor is at least as good as that, if not better. It has a really good gun. It's a 40 millimeter Bofors automatic cannon. It has just excellent, ballistics and computer systems and all of the high tech toys. It has top of the line pretty much everything, with optics, just like everything you can imagine. It even has a rear view camera for driving backwards. All Swedish vehicles have that though.
That's cute.
And it's really the armor, the speed, the firepower. I believe it carries missiles, similar to the Bradley, although they're different. They're smaller missiles. They're not TOWs. They're a different type of missile. I can't remember what they're called. But it's just a fantastic all around vehicle. And there are also a whole bunch. There's the chassis, the base chassis, and that chassis can be used for anything. There's self-propelled mortars. There's self-propelled howitzers. I believe there's anti-aircraft versions. It's like you can basically turn it into anything you want. There's even a tank destroyer version.
Very nice. It's unfortunate that the medic I was with earlier, who was in the counteroffensive, he just left to go back home. But he was actually kind of bemoaning the Bradleys, saying that while they're very nice, he didn't have up armored ones, and he was actually part of that push that we all saw the Bradleys getting smoked on. Yeah. Thankfully, he's okay. He was in a Bradley, but obviously not one of those. And he was kind of just complaining about the fact that like anything over 50 cal, the Bradleys won't stop. And so like ATGMs just tore him up. And those FPV drones, he was very much in no uncertain terms complaining about them. So if you have something that like you're seeing in this video can just tank an ATGM shot and keep it moving potentially, that is huge for crew survivability. Can it tank mines as well? Because he was saying that the anti-personnel mine or the anti-tank mines were basically just folding up the unarmored Bradleys.
Well, I don't know if it can survive a mine going off beneath it. But if it hits the tracks, it's probably the same as any other vehicle. I don't know how often mines blow up under vehicles. It seems uncommon. For that to happen, wouldn't you would either need to hit the mine just right, like hit the corner of the mine of the track, right? Or you would have to have multiple mines way too close together so that they would have like some sort of sympathetic detonation. Wouldn't those be like the only ways to blow up under the tank? Because these aren't like magnetic; they're like push mines, right? Contact pressure plates.
I think they're pressure mines. Some of the guys we were training were practicing setting up mines. Hilariously enough, right next to the road we used to drive in, and of course they're using real mines. So I was like, "You guys can't set them up like 50 meters away from the road in case you miss one." But they're like, "No, it's fine. Come step on it." Which they actually do make a point of. They're like, look, you know, the small weight won't set it off, but a big weight will. Was a big part of their training. So I don't know how much it takes, but I believe it is direct pressure.
Yeah.
Although I do know that there are times where the Russians will put anti-personnel mines under the anti-tank mines. I don't know how that works. Like then maybe they detonate with less pressure. Maybe the small mine detonates the large one. You'd have to ask an EOD guy about that. But I know that's becoming more and more common. They dual mine things.
Yeah, unfortunately. And I think you can put all sorts of things under a mine. I think you could put like just a normal hand grenade if you do it right. But anyways, there's all sorts of weird, mean, cruel things you can do with mines.
Mine bodies a lot, maybe not a lot more, but in the counteroffensive, it's they've been looting bodies of dead Ukrainians on the assault. Sometimes they loot their own guys' bodies, but one of my buddy's friends got killed, and they basically took all his stuff, took his clothes, and put mines under him, which means then you can't recover the bodies, which is extra cruel and extra fucked up, if you pardon my language. But that's becoming more and more of a widely accepted tactic that the Russians are employing.
We've heard that stories like this in Andriivka as well, where Ukraine had to abandon a position because they got overrun, and then when they counterattacked, they found booby-trapped bodies. Like all their bodies were booby-trapped. So yeah, I've heard several people talking about that sort of thing in Avdiivka. I'm sure it probably happens everywhere, honestly. It's pretty messed up, though. It's one of the things that really bothers me.
It was giving him more than a little bit of trauma. It's a traumatic story because of the circumstances in which all that happened. I don't know if it's necessarily germane to what you're talking about. I'm happy to talk about it, but hey, that's your decision. I don't want to sideline the report tonight.
That's fine. I mean, we're gonna get to this southern attack in a second. I just wanted to talk about this northern one first because it's just faster to talk through because there's not as much happening. But anyways, there's this CV-90 was damaged right here, and up in wait a second. Up where Russia was doing their apparent thrust, I guess last week or last weekend or whatever, we have a video of Russia shelling a position that we believed was Russian controlled, which suggests pretty strongly that's not. And this was also a very recent video. At least it's like it can't be older than like Monday, and Russia supposedly captured this position over the weekend or Friday even. So it really shows that Russia did not, at least doesn't currently control that position. So this would be just south of Novoyehorivka. Anyways, I'll turn on the Google hybrid so people can read it without looking at Cyrillic. Anyways, this whole northern apparent advance by Russia appears to either be collapsing or never to have happened. Konstantin, do you know anything about this? Because I know this was a really difficult thing to analyze because we just have so little information from this area. It seems to be under a media blackout. Maybe I'm not really sure.
There was an offensive and they took over some of the parts, but I don't have any news since like 3 days, so I cannot add anything.
Well, it seems that they've left Nadia. It seems that these forests are not Russian controlled because Russia is heavily shelling them. What is going on in Novoyehorivka, not really sure. And these forests to the east, closer to Karmazianivka, I have no information about them, and I assume that they're still Russian controlled. The really interesting part about these particular forests that Russia is currently shelling is that these are at the top of the hill. So it suggests that Ukraine retook this hill. And this hill is actually kind of the most important and maybe the only important area here, because Novoyehorivka is in a valley, so it's very low ground, and everything around it that's currently either contested or Ukrainian controlled is on top of the hill. Nadia is pretty much the same situation where it's at the bottom of a valley and everything, all the high ground is controlled by Ukraine. So if Russia lost these forests, it means that they basically only captured a few valleys, and those valleys are of dubious value to them, and they would probably end up just withdrawing. They'd either probably try to attack up the hill to capture these forests or withdraw, because I don't think they're just going to sit in a valley all day surrounded. It doesn't make any sense. Similarly, there are ongoing attacks around Novosilivka, and I think mostly to the south, but also some to the north. So that's kind of all I have to say about this area. I don't really know too much else. I don't know, Konstantin, do you have anything to add to that?
So regarding Novosilivska, not much have changed there.
Yeah.
It's the line is pretty static right now. Russians, they took a couple of tree lines and how you call it, the rail station inside the Novosilivska, and
Yeah.
that's basically it. Not much has changed since then. I've seen the videos recently, but it's just forest, couple of Russians. I can add something here. There was an attack. If you go down, south a bit, there was an attack somewhere here. I have a video of that. How it was a failed Russian attack. They had probably a couple of dead, and they were carrying one wounded away from it. We did not have any means to target them, so just watch them pull back. That's basically.
If I remember right, I think a few days ago, Ukraine took out a tank here. I think it was a T-90M, if I remember right.
That was in Novosilivsk itself.
Okay.
Do you mean the video that I've posted was the grenade dropped on top of it?
No. I'm pretty sure the tank was like right here. Maybe I have marked it on my map. Yeah, it was a T-72 or a T-90. I honestly have no clue what tank this is. I don't know. If anyone could tell me what tank this is, I'd love to hear it, because to me, I have no clue. Like, when I look at this, I just think it's like a Leopard 1. That's what I see, and it's not a Leopard 1, spoiler. But I don't, whatever this tank is what Ukraine destroyed. I just kind of marked it as a T-72 because I have no idea. But yeah. Anyways, that's kind of what's going on there. Don't really have much to add. The satellite imagery yesterday depicted that all of these forest strips over the past about 3 to 4 days, they've all been completely torn apart by artillery, which is interesting. And similarly, these forest strips here are all very recently destroyed by artillery, and you can see where these are in relation to other towns like Nevska and Novosadove. So these are to the east of that, basically the front line to the east of those two towns. Now, beyond that, I don't really have anything to say. Bilohorivka is apparently, I have no news. It's a recent news anyway, but the last news we have is from about a week ago that Russia had been confirmed to have entered this industrial area, and they may control the entire industrial area. And that's kind of all the news I have of this kind of northern part. Now, getting towards Bakhmut, Zalyanska, Ukraine apparently attacked here either yesterday or the day before. I haven't seen any videos of this attack or photos, but I have heard Russians complaining about it, that Ukraine apparently heavily shelled their positions. The Russians were saying that they lost, like some of their defensive positions were badly damaged by the shelling, and they had lost like a bunker or something to like a direct hit from a shell. And then Ukraine apparently attacked, and they say they repelled the attack. So that's kind of all the news that I got. I don't even know if it's true. It's like impossible to verify, but that's what they're saying. There's also kind of active fighting going on to the east of Vasilivka, and Ukraine is apparently trying to attack into Berhivka and Yahidna, and Russia's trying to push them back. So it's kind of a push and go, or pull and push, or whatever. I don't know. They're both kind of attacking each other at this point. Now, and also, Konstantin, do you have anything to add about that area north of Bakhmut?
I showed you videos from there like today, I think.
Yeah,
2 videos.
I don't know if you want me to talk about them.
Yeah, it's not the videos we can show here, but it's an apocalypse over there. Like Russians are just, dying in the trenches, being bombarded by artillery, then the drones. The trenches are littered with bodies, but they still don't abandon. They're afraid of their own troops more than of Ukrainian ones, because they're crazy.
Yeah, the videos, I don't know if you're going to post them at some point, or if I don't, anyway.
That's question to Djibouti. We all wait.
Okay, so it's going to be posted soon. Oh, so okay, but
just on Djibouti.
Just if Djibouti ever gets his act together, it will be posted soon. But the spoiler is, a lot of Russians died, like a lot. And I don't know which video you'll be posting, but all of them show a lot of dead, regardless. Maybe you're showing all of them. I don't know. I guess we'll see whenever Djibouti gets his act together. Anyways, so now getting kind of into more interesting area for me anyway. Klishchiivka. The Russians are claiming that they have pushed Ukraine out of Klishchiivka, to which I say I doubt it. There's no evidence of it that I've seen. I think it's still pretty much contested. From everything I can gather, Russia is using this. I think it's it's a railway track. There's this railway track here that is flanked on both sides by trees, and they're using these trees to move into Klishchiivka, on the northeastern side of the town, and they're trying to drive southwest along these streets and push Ukraine out. And all of the videos that we have seen of these attempts have resulted in pretty high Russian losses. I'm sure at this point everyone has seen the video of, I think it was like basically a Ukrainian squad who were behind two houses, and the Russians drove past in like a BMD or whatever it was, a BMP or a BMD, and they dismounted right in front of these houses and basically all instantly died. It was like two Ukrainians just kind of mag dumped into them as they were jumping off the BMD, and that was kind of that. But that sort of event seems to be relatively common in Klishchiivka. Seems to be pretty high casualties, perhaps for both sides. We have seen evidence of Ukraine evacuating wounded, so obviously they're taking casualties as well, and there seem to be quite a few wounded in those evacuations. But anyways, so Klishchiivka is probably contested at the moment. That's what I would assume. I think the statements that Russia retook it are a source of hopium. Now in Andriivka, which is just south of Klishchiivka, it seems that Russia most likely abandoned the town, but we don't know if Ukraine has taken it yet. There's extremely heavy shelling going on here, and this shelling is very, very recent. You can see this area here where there's this road that goes east into the town, and then there's another road that goes north. The intersection of these two roads is just obliterated over the past like 2 days, or 3 days now. So this town is getting really, really heavily shelled. Of course, we don't actually know who's doing the shelling, but it's probably Russia. It's probably Russia. So that's kind of the situation in Andriivka. Now, yesterday it was confirmed that Ukraine captured a bunch of ground northwest of Klishchiivka, and today, if you give me a second, I'm gonna find a video of Ukraine fighting in that location because I don't actually remember where they are, but they're there somewhere. But anyways, I don't know if either of you have anything to say about this while I look for that video.
Trucks down there. That's the only thing I've heard. I don't know if it's just because it's entering a town and it's been a little while, or it's just a place where there's an assault going on, there's more place to hide or whatever. But I've heard a lot more from folks in that area that are complaining about the Russians leaving grenades in like houses and stuff, making these wily coyote little traps with grenades. So I don't know if that's just a single data point, a larger thing. It's just more prevalent now, but I've heard that from like 3 or 4 guys.
Okay, so this was where Ukraine was evacuating wounded. That's the coordinates, and I'll show the video in a second, because this is a video that I can show. This is a M113, and they are shooting and evacuating. I don't want to show blood by accident, so I'm going to stop it. Anyway, so that's going on right there. So yeah, that's all kind of the south of Bakhmut news that I've seen. There's also been some videos of cluster munitions in use from both sides, honestly.
I'm watching this video, right? Like live stream of the of cluster munition being poured on Klishchiivka.
Yeah. You mean like right now?
Yeah, right. Literally right now.
Okay. So yeah, that's kind of all I have to say about that. So we're kind of moving down south. Okay, so moving to this is Avdiivka. Avdiivka. So this is just south of Avdiivka to the southwest in Novelska. This is here's Marinka and Avdiivka. So it's like kind of, I guess, halfway in between. I don't know, or maybe a third of the way, whatever. So Ukraine is pushing west from Novelska. Now this is super interesting because first, I know from having talked to a few guys who had defended this area, some of these positions here are kind of well-known defensive positions. At least there's like a lore to them. I mean, so there's stories to these defensive positions because Ukraine held them for years and years, and there's a lot of history behind them because these are defensive positions that were at or at least very, very near the front line for 8 years. So Ukraine seems to be pushing very close, if not recapturing some of these really famous defensive positions. Like, for example, there's this one, which I can't remember the name of. I think it's called Oasis, but I'm not sure. But anyways, so these are super important defensive positions because these are ideal positions for holding this entire like field system, like all these farm fields. Like these are like kind of the ideal place to defend everything here. So Ukraine recapturing them is actually more important than it looks. Now, right here, Ukraine obviously used Mikliks to blow through some minefields. And these are very recently used. I'm not sure on the date, but very recent, like this week. So these are several Mikliks. I don't know what these are. These might also be Mikliks, but this and this are definitely to Miklik. Miklik is a what's it called? A mine clearing line charge or whatever. Anyways, now this forest strip to the west of those Mikliks is also being very heavily shelled. Now, we don't know who's doing the shelling, but we do know that Ukraine doesn't have that much ammo, so it's probably Russia. Okay, so we assume that this is probably Russian shelling on this position, and this is again very recent development. So it seems, and also we also have video of Ukraine driving a vehicle of some sort. I don't remember what kind of vehicle it was, but they're driving vehicles along this forest strip here to the east. And also we have other unrelated videos of Ukrainian armor attacking and some of them being destroyed in this area. So it seems that Ukraine is pushing towards Pisky from Novelske, and in the process clearing out this defensive position here, and is most likely held by Ukraine at this point. And this one to the south, who knows, and continuing most likely in an effort to move towards Pisky. And similarly, over the past few weeks, although not necessarily recently, we've seen Ukraine move towards Pisky through Pervomaisky, where Russia once had a front line up here in Pervomaisky, and now it's been pushed all the way back to here. It may have been pushed even beyond the highway. I'll remind you that this highway here is the separator between Pervomaisky to the west and Pisky to the east. So crossing the highway means you're in Pisky. Another kind of legendary Ukrainian defensive position is right here. It is Republika Mist, which was a position that there have been a lot of videos and documentaries and stuff written about that. So it's a pretty famous position, which kind of guarded the it was kind of the wall between Pisky and Pervomaisky. But anyways, so that's kind of everything there. And I don't know if language, if you want to talk about this area or just move on.
There's active operations down there, and what do you have on your map right now, or what are you mapping? I guess I should say.
What I've shown is this advance from Novelske, where they're the Mikliks on the satellite imagery and the forest strip being blown away by artillery, and that's pretty much all I've drawn.
I'll just say that in this general area, there's units that are moving. The Russians are very aware of it, so it's not leaking anything, but they have a force arrayed against them that has been surprisingly successful. So wait and see. Keep an eye on this area, and we'll just kind of leave it at that.
Okay. So that's kind of all of the Eastern news that I know about and can get into. There are some other things going on today. There was I don't actually know what happened, but I don't know if it was a missile strike or a bomb or what happened, but what was it? The Ministry of Internal Affairs in Donetsk exploded today. And a bunch of ambulances were rushed to the scene. So that was somewhat interesting. And there were some other explosions in Rostov today, various locations in Rostov. What's this city is, what? I've never actually said it out loud. Taganrog, is that how you say it? Anyway, so there was a missile strike. It was probably an S-200, I imagine, struck somewhere here. I haven't located it. But what's interesting is that there's two kind of military bases. I think they're both military bases. But anyways, there's two airfields here. and those seem to be the sort of target you would shoot at. Although there might be other targets here that I don't know about, but those two airfields are interesting. And then also in a town that I think the town's called Azov, right? I don't actually know where Azov is, but I'm pretty sure it's near Rostov. Oh, here it is. It's right there. There it is. But anyways, near Azov, there was another missile strike today. Russians say that they shot the missile down and it landed in a farm field. I did see it land in a field, but I don't know if it was a farm field. But anyways, so the missile strikes there. In addition, there were Iskanders landed in Dnipro and destroyed a high-rise building. I don't know what's happened as a result of that. I haven't been able to keep up with that news, but I do know that the missile landed there, and I believe at roughly the same time, a missile, another Iskander, landed in Zaporizhia. And I think that's kind of the main news. Was there also an attack on Kyiv today? I can't remember. Oh.
I didn't hear anything. I don't think so. There's been some alerts, but I don't think anything actually got fired.
Okay. Yeah, it's been hard
I actually
to keep up.
Don't even know if Kinzal's got fired the other day. There was like rumors about it, but I heard a boom north of the city towards the Bucha Irpin area, but I couldn't tell you. Kinzals do sound scary as hell, and it didn't sound like that. I have heard that the Russians they realize that they can't really get anything into Kyiv, so they're trying to absorb missiles, which is why they'll fly a drone that'll just make circles around Kyiv until somebody shoots it down. Both to kind of waste missiles, suss out the locations. Remembering that Shahed drones can't be adjusted once they're in flight, or not to my knowledge at least, they basically put them on this pre-programmed path of just doing a bunch of donuts around Kyiv and then eventually try and slam into something. So that could also have been part of it. But there's a bunch of people saying like Fort Kinzals got launched. I didn't see any evidence of that. They might have gone further west, but
yeah, I don't know.
I'm nebulous on that one.
I don't know if they were actually launched. I did see some reports that they were all shot down, but the target, I can't remember the name of the target. Konstantin, do you remember the name of the target? Anyways,
which target?
Of the missile attack the other day, it was the airfield that the Su-24s are on. They were.
Vasilivka?
What's that?
Vasilivka?
I think it started with a K. Anyways, it doesn't matter. But anyways, they basically fired all of that huge missile strike the other day. They were trying to destroy the Su-24s, and the reason why is because the Su-24s are shooting storm shadows. I believe that's what they were targeting, and if the missiles hit, I doubt we would know about it because it's not like Ukraine's going to brag about their airfield getting hit by missiles. They're going to obviously hide that as much as possible. Unless you have like satellite imagery, I don't think you're going to see much. And I don't know if anyone bought that satellite imagery, and if they did, I haven't seen it published. Yeah, that it's over here somewhere. It's actually I think it's like here. I can't remember the name of the airfield though. It's just like I can see it in my head, but I can't remember it, if you know what I mean. But anyways, so it was in like this part of Ukraine. It's like to the west of Vinnytsia. And if you remember, in that all of the warnings were like missiles going towards Vinnytsia and missiles going towards Zhytomyr, and but they didn't. They actually flew over those cities and like went towards the airfield over here. So anyways, so that was a few days ago, and I think that's where they fired what was it, like a bunch of X-101s and a bunch of apparently Kinjals. I don't know. Ukraine said they shot them all down, and I haven't seen anything since then. So And also, if you are shooting at airplanes like that, I imagine the first thing you would do is emergency get all of the planes off the ground and fly them away. Don't you think? That's what I would do. So, anyways, so we can get to the south now. Uh, Yesterday, Ukraine announced the liberation of Staromaiorske, and a bunch of videos have come out since then of Ukrainians kind of walking through the town, especially the northern part of the town. They show destroyed tanks, kind of bits of Russian, I think is the best way to put it. Anyways, so videos of Ukrainians walking around the town, basically, and a bunch of other footage came out today. It's mostly like old kind of I guess like obsolete video that just doesn't matter anymore. But a lot of it was from June. People say it's from July, but it's not. But it was Ukraine destroying a lot of defensive positions on this western side of Staromaiorske, destroying these positions using MLR mostly, and also other forms of artillery. So and also targeting like Russian tanks along this highway. But all those videos, they're pretty easy to locate in time, because one day all of these forests, all of these trees existed one day, and then the next day they didn't exist anymore. And in the video, they exist and they're shooting them, so it's not hard to figure out when it happened. It was pretty early in June when all these trees exploded. So, anyways, it probably occurred shortly after they captured Makarivka. Anyway, so that's kind of the news I have for Staromaiorske. Now, Ukraine is going to almost certainly try to and probably successfully capture Eurozhina. And in fact, I would not be surprised if they have already captured this town, just due to the fact that the town is now basically surrounded on three sides. Like there's one road in, and the high ground to the west is all Ukrainian. The north is all Ukrainian, and the high ground to the east is controlled by Ukraine as well. And that doesn't bode well for a defense, I don't think. I imagine they're just going to pull out. Whether they've pulled out already or whether it'll take a few days, I don't know. But I imagine this town will fall pretty quickly. And similarly, this area to the west of Staromaiorske and to the east of Pervomaisky, I imagine this will also collapse pretty quickly. I don't think Ukraine, I don't think Russia can supply this reliably anymore, considering pretty much every road is under fire control, and the main path for reinforcements or for supply was from Staromaiorske. So I think this whole northern part will probably collapse, and it'll probably come down to kind of level out as a kind of like more of a straight line defense rather than this big bulge in the middle. So yeah. Now getting towards the obviously the biggest story of the week is this offensive in the south. Now, Language and Constantine, I don't know, do you guys want to tell the story of what's going on here, or do you want me to do it?
I can talk about a specific soldier and a specific unit's experiences, which were broadly negative, and he take it all with a grain of salt because it's one data point. He had severe issues with, I guess, too many cooks in the kitchen, is how he put it. There was a overabundance of commanders with a lot of competing theories, and the fact that there didn't seem to be a unified plan, or not effective communication led to a lot of vehicles getting destroyed and a bunch of dudes getting killed, including a really close friend of his, in a pretty fucked up way. So he's obviously heated, so take it with a grain of salt. But that's I can elaborate on that. But as far as the overall tactical goals, tactical aim, strategic value, I think you guys are better suited to tell that than I am.
Okay, so we have one question that I can't answer, but I'm just gonna, because it's from the audience, so I might as well bring it up. Is the S200 more accurate than an S300? The answer is I have absolutely no idea. To my knowledge, the S200, I've never heard of an S200 being used in a ground attack role before Ukraine did it a few weeks ago. And all of the missile expert sort of people that I know of, none of them have ever heard of it being used that way either. They don't understand how it works in ground attack mode, how it is guided. They don't know. So we basically don't know how it works. It was originally designed for ground attack, but we don't know how that design process worked or what is in the missile that makes it possible. So we have no idea how accurate those are. The S300 are somewhat accurate. They're more accurate than a lot of people pretend they are. If you look at like the internet, everybody like jokes about them being like just missing all the time. They don't necessarily miss all the time. They can hit as well. They're actually decently accurate. They're not like a precision weapon, but they can hit, and they leave a large explosion, and that's why they shoot more than one. You probably shoot like 4 to 6 of them at a time, and you with the goal of the combined damage doing enough to destroy whatever your target was. So the S200, I have no idea. I don't think really anybody knows how it works. And we don't even know like if Ukraine is using the original machinery or if they like upgraded the missile somehow. Like we have no idea how it works. But anyways, Constantine, do you want to talk about this attack south?
I cannot say anything new.
Okay.
Anything good about it. I can say only bad things.
Okay, then say something
bad. It was a failure. And
okay, so let's be more specific. When you say it was a failure, which aspect of it? Do you mean the past few days or the totality?
Past 2 days.
Okay.
There were this attack that you have seen, Russian video posted with the BTRs, with BMPs, Ukrainian BMPs being destroyed. I don't think it. Yeah, it was somewhere here. So
it was right here.
That attack has failed, and we did not manage to get a foothold of those positions. And we lost a lot, not only equipment, we lost a lot of people there as well. So the total loss, I think, is around, yesterday I had a even worse estimate, but it wasn't, in terms of equipment, it was only, I think, 3 tanks and 12 or 13 IFVs and trucks in this attack that you're showing. And that's basically all I have. And I know that they failed to take a foothold in it. So it wasn't successful. I don't think we have control of any of those positions right now.
Yeah. Now this attack to the east, to me, was more interesting than this attack south. This attack south was a total catastrophe. Like you can just from what I've seen in this attack, there were 6 confirmed BMP losses by Ukraine, and 3 more BMP losses that were probably Ukraine, but you couldn't definitively say. They could have been Russian as well. So it was difficult to definitively say. So it was at least 6 BMP, if not 9, plus an M113 and several other vehicles, as well over the course of a period of time. So we know of these tanks and Bradleys that were lost getting to this position. We know of another T-72 lost down here in a prior attack, I think, or maybe it all happened at the same time. I'm not entirely sure. So, it's pretty bad losses. This whole attack was a catastrophe. Now, what exactly happened? It appeared that Ukraine was getting attacked. First, there's a trench here, roughly, which Russia is manning. And in this trench, there were a lot of people with various sorts of anti-tank weapons, RPGs, and probably ATGMs. In addition to that, there were forces south somewhere, like maybe on this tree line, who also had anti-tank weapons. There were most likely also helicopters, I imagine. We don't see them, but probably. And in addition to that, there were Lancets, and the Lancets were attacking all the vehicles as they were moving up. So basically, Ukraine was kind of surrounded by anti-tank weapons, getting shot from basically 3 sides with anti-tank weapons, and it did not go well, and they lost basically everything. Okay, someone asked who my guests are. The guests are Language Learner and Constantine. Those are the 2 guests. Okay, so anyway, so that's this attack. Now, this attack to the east, we know very little about it other than Ukraine sent a vehicle of some sort, maybe a BMP, or maybe an MTLB, I'm not really sure, but they sent a vehicle across a field and it landed in a trench. The trench is approximately right here. The trench kind of runs on this line between this eyeball and this little attack marker. And this trench is Russia's main line of defense. So the vehicle kind of came from the northwest and went down the field kind of like this. So, but we don't actually know how Ukraine got this vehicle there in the first place. We don't know how much of this territory is currently controlled or was controlled at the time that vehicle thing happened. And we don't know what direction they came from, whether they came from the west or whether they came from the north. I have absolutely no idea. So, I don't know. Do either of you know about this thrust to the east towards Verbova?
I have no clue what was it, and I have no clue how many forces were there, but it was generally a large attack that they tried to penetrate. To have deeper penetration. And from what I heard, it failed generally. This one in the south failed, and the one in the east failed as well. That's all I heard from there. But this is from not exactly from the person this is from the UAV pilot in that area, but he wasn't flying himself that day. So
there's a huge amount of Russian FPV drones in that area and ATGMs. From a guy who was down there recently, and that's been their biggest issue. And they need more smoke to obscure. There's been some confusion. Hopefully, that's been resolved since these, frankly, catastrophes. But there was it seemed like there was confusion on what they needed and what they need to use and how to use it. And some commanders made some poor decisions and then continued to make those poor decisions, and things just descended from there. Allegedly.
So the question that I have, I don't, maybe this came up when you were talking to him. Was it a lack of smoke, or was it a lack of using smoke? Like, did they have the smoke and just not use it?
He, in his personal perspective, and I'm not going to say that they have no smoke, but the vehicle he was in did not have smoke launchers equipped, and it was a Western vehicle, which is why he was ragging on it and basically saying that it was shit. And nobody jury-rigged it. So the lack of smoke, and there was a real serious miscommunication in this zone, which is why he was so upset about his buddy getting killed, like a day before his birthday, which was or day before his wedding. Sorry, he was supposed to be going. I was like, hey, we need you guys to scout this trench. They thought that they already owned it, that the Ukraine had already taken it, and there was a drastic miscommunication there, and Ukraine had not entered that trench at all. And the Russians had booby-trapped it. So that's a single data point, which is unfortunate and very personally tragic, especially what transpired afterwards. But I think it highlights that there is a need for more coordination between commanders on the front in rapid order there before you end up with further just really massively avoidable deaths like that. Because people are going to die. This is a war, but they don't have to die for stupid reasons. And I would classify sending people into a trench that you think is secure, telling them it's secure, telling them it's okay, and then watching them all get turned into pink mist is a stupid reason when you have ample opportunity to prevent that at every stage in the process. I'm a little heated about this, so don't expect me to be tremendously objective.
Yeah, unfortunately, I've heard a lot of stories like this over the past year and a half or so, and I know Konstantin has as well. So it just seems
it is usually a lack of coordination. I mean, these are, first of all, these are new brigades. With even though they have experienced people, they have to work with each other to for quite some time to get used to working in the teams, and before they do that, usually each brigade suffers a lot of losses. And yeah, it's a mistake of our political leadership as well to send completely new brigades, and they're full, without how you say this, like combined armed properly. When the entire brigade is has zero combat experience and you throw it into the battle, it never goes well. I think we learned the hard way. But like, where do the brigades get this combat experience? They have to, either you gotta use them slowly, like inject one battalion here, let them get used to the fire and to being shot at. Maybe something like this can help. But once again, with the pressure, with this counteroffensive, I think it was a political mistake also to announce it, to talk so much about it, and then it added the pressure on Ukraine to act quickly by Ukraine itself. And as a result, I think this mistakes happen. So as I understand it, we need to rethink the strategy of using new forces and try not to throw them into this pinchers through movements that like this, because it's obviously is not working very well. At the same time, I will tell you that there is 65th Brigade over there fighting, which does not have crazy losses like this. They don't push as fast, but they slowly grind down enemy forces. They don't have fancy equipment. They're just there, fighting. They are quite experienced, but they have lack of modern equipment, and they have And they're very careful with what they're doing compared to the new brigades.
Yeah, the 65th are in the west, right over here.
Yeah.
Okay, so just to kind of break this down, so the 65th are in the west, I believe, and the 15th are in the east, right? The 15th are like here.
Yes.
And the 47th are like in the middle. And is there another brigade there now? They add like 3 more brigades, right?
I don't know if it's public. I don't wanna.
Okay. Well, anyways, the 47th were in the middle.
These are Republican brigades that I'm talking about. It's well known and public.
Yes,
so I'm open to talking about it. But the new ones, I don't know if they're if they were ID'd yet.
Anyways, so the 15th have been struggling to advance. Part of it is that they're kind of attacking 2 directions at once. There's Novopokrovka, and then obviously you're trying to move south, just generally. So they're kind of attacking in 2 directions at once. This area of Novopokrovka, especially this tree line here, but also this secondary tree line, and some of these other tree lines down here, they're just full of ATGMs. And whenever Ukraine tries to kind of move around in this area, they get shot to pieces by ATGMs. I'm sure they also have drones as well, like FPV drones, and Lancets are probably flying around as well, although I haven't seen much evidence of that, but it's probably safe to assume that they're there as well, in addition to artillery and everything else. So they've had issues moving of the 15th. They have moved a bit in kind of this area, where it was kind of their job to clear this kind of section. I don't know how to describe this. I just think of it as like the diagonal trees. Anyways, so they kind of cleared this area, and I don't know exactly how far south they are. I don't know if they ever got to this position here, which would be logical if Ukraine, Ukraine got over here somehow. So it may have been that the 15th moved all the way down to here, and then they launched a attack kind of west from there, or east from there. But anyways, so that's kind of the 15th, and the 65th is on the western flank, and the 47th are in the middle. So yeah, I don't know. Do either of you have anything more to say about this? What do you think the outlook is going forward, like a week from now or 2 weeks from now? Do you think anything's going to change?
I hope so. I hope that these brigades will learn a bit. And what I think is that we don't really know the reality of how much resilience the Russian forces have there. If you, it's like a chop in the tree. If you chop it long enough, it collapses. It may happen. It may not happen. So. I know that Ukraine, even with those failed attacks, we still have enough forces to push there, but we have to use, devicer, better communication, better coordination, and better, plan through strategy than just doing what we're doing right now. So my take is that next 4 or 5 days, maybe a week, we will have more pushes over there in that area, but that's and success. I don't want to be a fortune teller here and try to predict what's gonna happen, but my prediction is that we're gonna push Russians out of Robotina in the next 5 days. But once again, this is the prediction.
Heard it here first. 5 days.
Maybe 6, 7. Let's make it a week.
Oh, well, you said that Russia will definitely be gone by Wednesday. Okay, so
The whole country, war's over by Wednesday. Heard it here, folks.
uh,
I
I'm
hope
more,
that
I'm more optimistic about what's going on in other parts and in
so am I.
around Bakhmut.
Yes.
That's what I think is going to be a bit more. I see much more positive
Yeah. We
signals from there.
we can kind of go back to
I don't
Bakhmut if
think
you want
this
to.
is the yeah, I don't think this is the only position in play. Uh, and consequently, we should. While it's tragic and it's not great, it's also not the end of the counteroffensive. It's all over, folks. That some Russians have been proclaiming. So take everything, especially doom posting, with a grain of salt. Is probably good advice for anybody listening to this.
So, getting back to Bakhmut, uh, just because there's kind of more going on here. It's kind of anyway. So to kind of summarize it briefly, this northern section of Bakhmut, Russians are taking very high casualties, uh, like really high casualties. Now we don't know how. I kind of think Russia will withdraw from here. I am genuinely shocked they haven't withdrawn already. Obviously, the only reason that they're staying is to hold Berhivka. They're terrified of losing Berhivka. And this road to the north, the MO3 highway, this is really the only way to defend Berhivka. If you remember, um, Berhivka, this hill to the west of Berhivka is reasonably high, and it makes it pretty easy to defend the town overall. And Yehidna is also on a hill, so Ukraine is moving up the low ground where they're kind of surrounded by high ground. So this attack vector is reasonably difficult to do. Now, this road, this highway, is on kind of the top of the ridge. So if you just look at this highway, you can just imagine wherever the highway is the high ground. that's kind of the way it is because it's on top of the ridge. So Ukraine is trying to push along this highway, and once you get to around this point in the highway, you would have kind of fire control over Berhivka, and I imagine Russia will withdraw. So they're doing everything they can to keep Ukraine away from that, or like roughly here. So they want to keep Ukraine up here and over here. So they're trying really hard to do that, and they're willing to sacrifice seemingly a rather large number of their infantry to stymie this Ukrainian advance. And even still, Ukraine is slowly advancing. It is rather slow, but it is happening. And I suspect it will occur faster and faster over time, and Russia will be forced to withdraw from Berhivka. And then they will have to fall back to Perskovivka and Krasnohora and Blahodany. So these towns would be the new front line. That's what I kind of foresee, and I'm actually shocked it hasn't happened yet. But I think this is the future of the northern flank of Bakhmut. Whenever it comes to pass, I don't know when. But anyways, the southern flank is Ukraine is steadily advancing, also reasonably slowly, but it's steady. They have nearly reached this road, train, whatever this. I think it's a highway. Anyway, so they've almost reached this. Is on the other side of Andriivka. Beyond that, there's this highway that goes to Odriv, whatever. Anyway, there's this highway to Bakhmut. Now, this highway is heavily defended by Russia. They've spent a lot of time building defenses here. The other side of the highway, I'm not sure how defended it is, to be honest. But obviously, along this highway, there is the town of Apitna, and to the south, there's Mykolaievka Druha, and why can't I say this name? Odradivka. Anyway, so there's these three key towns along this highway. On the other side of the highway, there's the key town of Kodema, which is, in my opinion, one of the most important towns in this whole area south of Bakhmut, because above Kodema, just north of it, right here, is a hill, and this hill overlooks this highway and this highway, and I believe it also overlooks that highway. So this hill is rather important. Ukraine at one point, and language, I think didn't you know people in this area? I can't remember. But Ukraine was desperately clinging to this hill. Losing this hill was really bad for Ukraine.
We're talking about which hill?
It's the
I'm looking
hill.
at the screen.
It's between Kodema and Zaitseva.
Yeah, that was not great. That was a while ago, as I recall.
Very long.
Yeah, that was a minute. The details are fuzzy, but I remember that
It was extreme
hill,
shelling. Extreme shelling.
Yeah,
A lot of
that
shell
hill
shock.
was like once that hill dropped, because they could just see things from there for quite a distance, and I obviously don't know where their artillery was or anything like that, but I remember that hill gave them fire control in one way or another, and they basically, I forget if it was like rockets or just spying artillery or just something, but they were able to control a lot of the area, and then they got forced out of there, and the Russians just kind of rolled up and kept moving. But I'm a huge believer, and I've seen nothing here to indicate that I'm wrong. And having been out there in the Donetsk region for a bit, while we're not talking generally about oh, there's mountains here or anything, there are some pretty massive hills. And even just sort of, I want to say man-made hills, these huge, almost like ore piles. I can't really explain. They might be salt or something, but you can see them from the whole way from Sloviansk down to Bakhmut, from Bakhmut down to Pokrovsk. There's these huge, I can't imagine they're actually natural formations, but there's just these huge hills, and if you are on top of those, even just a couple guys, you can see for pretty much everywhere else. And on a more micro scale, if you're on one of these heavier hills and it's not super forested, you can really see for a distance. I don't think that's emphasized enough. The topography of the Donbass region every time I've looked at it, the battle lines flow along that. I've not seen a case where either side just sprints up a hill with no problem. If they're on top of a hill and you're not, you're gonna have a bad time. It's gonna take longer. If you're on top of a hill and they're trying to push you, you're genuinely A, gonna get shelled a lot more, but B, you're going to have an easier time holding it. So I don't know if there's a way to make it so you can have the same effects as in Google Earth Pro, where you can increase the terrain relief by 300% or whatever. But I was using that just to kind of see the natural flow of things, and I have found that to be generally accurate as far as what positions are more important than others. But obviously that varies from location to location. Yeah, like that, especially in the 300 mode. Or the 3 times mode. It's not, you can highlight it. And even just look, a difference of 100 meters is pretty solid when people are shooting at you. And if you're trying to pull vehicles up or whatever, it just makes everything much harder. We've talked about backside defenses and firing artillery from the backside of hills ad nauseum, but that's also something to consider. And yes, it's rolling hills, but it's a lot better to be on top of the hill than in the small valley between them.
Yeah, this is the hill above Kodema. This hill guards south, and southeast. That was kind of the point of this hill. Now, this part of the hill here, you can see the defensive fortifications here were pretty extensive. This was a very, very important Ukrainian position, and when they lost it, it was very, very bad. Now, there is another hill well, basically Zaitseva is like in a bowl, so it's surrounded on all sides by hills. But Zaitseva is also similarly incredibly important. So I actually think these positions south of Bakhmut were vastly more important than Bakhmut itself. I think it would be a ridiculous mistake to attack Bakhmut when you can go for these more important positions south of it. Because I think if you take these towns, especially Kodema and Zaitseva, you can control Bakhmut without ever having to enter it, especially if you take Brihivka in the north and these towns in the south, and then even move into Solidar in the north. Bakhmut would be totally untenable. You don't ever need to enter Bakhmut in order to liberate it.
That's absolutely accurate. Like, I'm obviously, like, I've never even been in Bakhmut. I'm not going to pretend that I'm, super. I know people there, but I'm not. I never got to take a picture with the MiG by the front gate, right? But if Ukraine is able to push on the sides of Bakhmut, the situation becomes untenable. And as we have seen with, frankly, to my knowledge, the solitary limited exception of Liman, which was a disaster for the Russian forces there, Russia does not commit to an urban defense, or does not do so well. One thing they are good at, one thing they have practiced, one thing they are consistently competent at is a retreat or a withdrawal. They dump a huge amount, apocalyptic amounts of artillery, and they bug out of town. I suspect and hope that if Ukraine is able to, just menace Patricia Lumumby Street and everything on the way there, the Russia will go, we're done. And, there'll be political considerations, to be sure. So that's why I'm not going to say it's 100%. But I do not see Russia committing to the same urban fight if they can be impeded from the sides. Maybe I'm being wishful thinking here, but I earnestly believe that if Ukraine is able to push up and into those hills, especially to the northeast of Bakhmut, the southern part of Bakhmut, that big wooded area, not even that far, the one right north of Bakhmut, where all those Ukrainian fortifications were along Patricia Lumumby Street, to the northeast section of the city.
Yep.
That's very audacious to get back there. You'd have to go through Solidar. But if they're able to just put something there, I'd say the city's gone at that point for the Russians. Ukraine's liberated it. Solidar, I think, will be interesting. I think there's operations going on there from a couple directions, and I genuinely couldn't tell you what that's going to look like. I hope it works. As a funny side note, they in the grocery stores, they have the salt from Solidar specially marked, and they sell it at A, an inflated price, and B, say it's all going to buy drones. But I've genuinely considered buying like a kilo of it and just holding on to it, or holding on to the bag. I don't know. It's an investment strategy for when we retake Solidar.
Yep. Well, those salt mines. Russia was so proud of taking them.
I promise, if and when I can get to Solidar without getting immediately killed like the idiot that I am, I'll take a video camera down those salt mines so you'll just shut you up about everything on them.
They're so cool.
I know,
there's like a hotel down there.
There is. They put like a hot air balloon down there once or something, like a giant Christmas tree. So yeah, I'll wander into the dark and step on the first landmine I see just to get you a picture of the salt mines in 4K or whatever.
There you go. Yeah, the salt mines are so cool. I think I might be able to open up images of the salt mine just in this map. Yeah, there it is. Look at that. I can't make it bigger. That's the image, though. That's all I got. But yeah, it's anyway. Ukraine is attacking Solidar from lots of angles. They have captured this position, and in a moment when I zoom out, you'll see why this position is very important. But this whole position is under Ukrainian control, this whole forest strip, and all of it, all the way to Vasilivka. So this is all in Ukrainian control. This area may also be in Ukrainian control. I can't tell. But the reason why this is important is because it's on the other side of a hill. So Vasilivka was on like the reverse side of the hill. So this tree line is kind of the top of the hill, and this is kind of going downhill a little bit. And from here, it's a much better view of everything going on towards Solidar. And it seems that Ukraine is trying to move along this ridge, perhaps. Seems to be what they're doing. The K2 battalion released drone video attacking this position with drones, and then shortly thereafter, it appears that Ukraine captured this position, and we don't get drone video from there anymore. Anyway, so but yeah, we've also had videos of artillery, Ukrainian artillery shelling somewhere along this power thing. what's the word for this? Anyway, it's like a power line. All these little green dots are like pylons that hold up the electrical cables. Anyways, so there's been artillery like right here, Ukrainian shelling, and even deeper into Solidar. So Ukraine is attacking from this angle, and also they've moved up this tree line. Don't know if they still are here. I haven't seen much evidence of anything changing in this location. But anyways, they're also apparently attacking from this angle, where, like I said before, Russia said that Ukraine assaulted this town either yesterday or the day before. They're also attacking on this axis here, trying to go down this highway, like I said before, to get to Berhivka. And they have also attempted to attack this way up this forest strip, which failed. But they have tried that, and they will probably try again in the future. And yeah, so and obviously they're trying to push into Berhivka and Yehidna from this direction. So they are attacking in the general Solidar direction from every angle they possibly can. They're like all the way around Solidar. They're attacking inwards from every direction, and they have had at least limited success in every direction. The full extent of their success is variable. So they used to be like back here. They've moved up to about here, so that's pretty good. It's like a few kilometers. They used to be like back here, and they've moved up to like here, so it's like a few kilometers. They used to be back here, and then they pushed up to here, so that's a few kilometers. And also they used to be back here, and now they're up here, and that's a few kilometers. So everywhere they've moved a few kilometers, and I imagine at some point some defense will falter around Solidar. I don't know where. I imagine the most likely place is around here on the highway, but it could be somewhere else. So, yeah.
I suspect when it starts to fall, it all falls at once. Maybe this is again wishful thinking, but let's say hypothetically it starts to have things move in on it from the south. I see the Russians collapsing back to Solidar initially, and then fucking off to the highway. I do not see them. Maybe, and again, this is perhaps more wishful thinking, so we'll take all this with a grain of salt. I earnestly believe and hope that the Russians do not have the reserve forces to effectively respond to a breakthrough attempt without moving those forces from other active areas on the line. And that seems to be at least the statements spread by the soldiers that it's not like, oh, after the first line there's nothing, but like after the third line it sounds like it's pretty open. We'll see. Again, take that with a kilogram of Solidar salt, but that has been a common theme I've heard repeated from this area, at least from drone folks and commanders, that they expect if they can just get through here, then it'll either take pressure off somewhere else, or the Russians just it becomes much easier than what they're dealing with currently.
Yeah. So I have a completely unrelated piece of information that I just wanted to bring up real quick. Russia yesterday posted a video shelling this position and then immediately deleted it from the internet. But unlucky for them, there were a bunch of enterprising Westerners who saw their video and downloaded it and put it on Twitter. So when they attempted to delete it from the internet, it's still on Twitter. So Russia was shelling this position on this island, which we didn't know Ukraine was in prior to this. This and just to kind of show you where this is just south of Kherson. I just wanted to bring that up. These positions probably don't matter. There's the troop forces here are so small, like maybe a squad here and there, not a big deal, but it's still kind of interesting to follow. I think that's all the news. Do you have anything else to say?
Moderate your expectations. These things take time. When it happens, hopefully it happens all at once, but it's important to remember that even the Kharkiv offensive, which was wild beyond all expectations, that took a lot of prep work and a lot of moving forces to other locations. And I think Ukraine and a lot of these new commanders are recognizing that the Western equipment is not a super weapon that reduces the difficulty of slamming into one of the most fortified positions in this war, and have now adapted more towards degrading Russian logistics, Russian artillery supplies, Russian artillery firing platforms, etc. These things take time, right? It's like, let's say we're going to get into a knife fight, okay? Is it going to work out better for me if I just run at you like a madman, or if I, manage to inflict a bunch of little cuts on your legs and hands and make you tired and your hands are sweaty and stuff before I jump in? Terrible, terrible analogy that rapidly fell apart there, but you get the picture. These are, it's, what's the saying? What was it like? Oh, well, it was a lot of nothing. And then, how did you lose? Oh, well, first very little nothing, and then everything
slowly
all at
at
once.
first, then faster.
Slowly at first, and all at once. Yeah, it's then faster. I will say I will exhibit cautious optimism with a caveat that this is an assault. You are going to see losses. You are going to see more losses than you are used to. You are going to see losses of equipment that a lot of people in the West have been saying is not invincible. I vehemently disagree with that fact, and don't doom post too hard. It's terrible. There's going to be a lot of casualties. We're seeing a lot of casualties. It's a hellhole down there. But I will also say, from the drone footage I've sat and watched, the Russian casualties are horrific. That's not me sitting. I've seen the guys in the comments who were like, "Oh, well, blah 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 blah," obviously biased. Well, yeah, a little bit. I mean, look what side of the line I'm on. But it's the Russians don't care about their dead. They don't evacuate them, which makes it easier to see the scale of their casualties. They'll drop a whole company just attacking a trench, and then like 48 hours later, they'll just drop another company on top of it and another couple BMPs just and they'll accomplish nothing. And then 2 days later, they'll drop another company on top of it. And the stuff I'm hearing and seeing from the drone guys is just obliterating a lot of these positions, and the Russians are backfilling them. But I have to imagine that this is not a sustainable act for the Russians, not even in terms of manpower. Before someone points out, well, you see population differentials. These soldiers are not teleporting to the front line from the Russian Federation, right? They require trucks, they require food, they require armor, they require ammunition, helmets, things that the Russians have in spades, to be sure. But this takes time, all right? You cannot teleport a conscript from the shores of Vladivostok to a frontline trench south of Bakhmut, no matter how much supplies you have. It requires logistical expenditures and time to get them there. And so there is a degradation that occurs, and the troop strength and concentration will wax and wane. And I've seen this in Ukrainian units, unfortunately, so I have to imagine it's happening in Russian units. As more experienced guys become casualties, new guys come in, they don't gel immediately with the old guys who have been there for a while. It's like that, just the things you see in like old war movies where it's like, oh, this is the new guy, we don't care about him. Yeah, that kind of happens. So if you're having massive turnover and degradation, then it lends claim to the things we're hearing about the Russians just having absolute terrible unit leadership communication where they're just like, go in this trench, and if you leave, we'll shoot you. Speaking of that whole thing, I do believe that there are barrier troops. I see enough evidence to it. I think a lot of the guys we're seeing shot, from looping back to a medical perspective, because they have such terrible TAC med out there. And I know what happens with Ukrainian troops. Guys who are really injured and have low morale will just beg to be shot. And I think the Russians have been doing that as well. I think part of it is a sense of callousness, and part of it is their mercy killing their own guys. What's that ratio? Hell if I know. But some of the stuff that I've seen on drones where they'll take a second. It's not just like, and then like taking their stuff. They'll just be like, okay, and then just like execute the dude. It could be because they don't want to get captured. It could be a mercy kill, but I've seen a couple times on drone footage. So, take it with a grain of salt. It's not like I'm staring at it, listening to them talk. But I do believe some of this stuff is mercy kills, guys who are sitting there with a bandage on, then like a dude comes over and like talks to him for a minute and then just shoots him in the face. Who knows? Long ramble. Don't know if that was germane to the situation or not, but I think important information to be shared to contextualize the overall situation.
Yeah, thank you. There are two questions. First, we're asked about the Vasilivka area. I didn't talk about it, so I may as well. Ukraine advanced south from Kamyanska. They advanced south from Kamyanska along this forest strip and probably also this parallel one. I don't know if they have actually captured this ground or if they merely attacked it. I'm not really sure. But either way, they did move somewhat here. I don't know what the outcome was. I don't see any more attacks coming from Piatekhatki. So that's kind of the area here. There's another question that I was asked. Will I ever make this elevation map public? The answer is to that, quite frankly, it's incredibly expensive to have the topographic map, and we're trying to find a way to make it public in a manner that doesn't make us go broke, because it is actually pretty expensive. So that's why it's admin only at the moment, because frankly I don't even use it that much because it's expensive, and I'm the only one using it. Well, and Martin, but the two of us are the only ones using it. And we use it enough that we're still on the free tier, but we could easily bounce into the very expensive tier if we use it too much. So that is the issue. We're trying to find a way to do it without going broke, because it's if we were to open it up to the public and it were used a lot, it would be very expensive. So that's why it's currently not public. Any news on the attacks towards Yakovlivka? I've seen no evidence of advance here. It's possible Ukraine doesn't even control this anymore. I've see no evidence of fighting, no evidence of advance. I don't know if that means Ukraine has dug in and Russia like gave up on trying to push him out, or if Ukraine completely withdrew, or what happened here. But I see on satellite imagery, I see basically no evidence of fighting, and there's no videos, and I have no other information. So this is all like a black hole. I'm not really sure. But anyways,
That it's and what could you see happening from that front? Because I don't know a lot from it either. It's just out of intellectual curiosity.
what
If Ukraine was able to push down into Yakovlivka, do you think it would open stuff up for them, or is it just another town on the front?
it would be really bad for Russia if they lost Yakovlivka. It is kind of, if you remember, losing Yakovlivka is what made Solidar collapse like really quickly. But basically, if I go to 3D view, it might be more obvious. But Yakovlivka is a kind of a peak of a hill, kind of, not really, but it is the high ground. So Ukraine was advancing up these two forest strips, and I believe the furthest they got was roughly here on the map. And I don't know what happened that after that. We have like drone video and stuff of Ukraine operating. We have one video of a bunch of BMPs charged up here and dumped a whole bunch of infantry into this forest strip and then turned around and drove away. So we have evidence that Ukraine had taken this position, and we don't know what happened since then. There's no obvious evidence of fighting, and they may have also taken this forest strip here, at least this part of it, and then since then, just no information from here. So, anyways, the taking Yakovlivka, the town itself might not be particularly important, but going up to kind of like this location here would be super valuable, because you would be able to overlook kind of this northern flank of Solidar. It'd be pretty bad for Solidar to have Ukrainians storming down this hill into the back of Solidar. it would be not good for the Russian defense. So yeah, that's kind of the value of Yakovlivka. It's not necessarily the town. It's kind of this ridge. And similarly, if you getting up to like this ridge here, which is beyond Vasilivka, but Ukraine has already pushed up to like here-ish, so they're getting closer. It's kind of, when you think about it, it's like one farm field away. Which like when you put it in that kind of term, it's not very far, but obviously moving a farm field can be very difficult under the right circumstances. So, but yeah, there's this flank of Solidar could collapse rapidly if Ukraine makes a few breakthroughs. And by breakthrough, I mean like taking this forest strip, like up to this intersection, or kind of moving up this forest strip into this intersection, or something like that, to get to the top of this hill. That sort of event could cause a bunch of serious problems for Russia. Yeah, and again, this would be kind of the opposite of how Ukraine lost Solidar, because they lost Solidar by losing Yakovlivka, and then Russia using Yakovlivka to attack this northern part of Solidar, and then they they kind of pushed through this way. So if Ukraine taking Yakovlivka and then taking this same part of Solidar and pushing through this same way, it would be a sort of poetic justice. But yeah, I think we've rambled on long enough. What do you think?
I think I've got enough stuff that I just loosely rambled on about. My main ramblings have to stop at some point. I think this is a good point to close them down.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you to everyone who came and asked questions and listened. You can press the like button, and if you found value in what we said, you can share the video or share a timestamp or whatever you want to do. And we'll see you next week. I'll probably be back on Tuesday. This past Tuesday, I had a family emergency and couldn't do it. But next Tuesday will probably be fine. Who knows? So anyway, thank you for everybody who came. And have a nice weekend.